The one thing I don't want to stop doing is talking about the last group of teams. And the last 15
Yeah.
teams in this group have two or more slots to fill and lots of wiggle room. However, there still is not a ton left in terms of designated player availability. Only Columbus, DC, and Montreal can add one more designated player. Everybody else is filled and only has U22 slots left. I will say DC probably should have two spots to fill, but somebody got fleeced in the front office and said, "Yeah, don't worry, interconference rival, please take one of our best players and we'll pay for him. Don't even worry about it." Whoever let that happen is
Thank you,
insane.
DC. Thank you.
Absurd. Just insanity. But lots of teams, lots of wiggle room. Who do you want to see make the biggest splash before this window closes in mid-April or whenever it closes?
I'm going with the Columbus Crew. I want them to get their number 9 replacement. I saw at one point they were rumored to Bernier, which I think would have been so fire. I would love to see Bernier come back and play in this Columbus team. But absolutely, they should spend that Kucha money. Go get yourselves a replacement. Get somebody up top at that number 9 because this is a championship quality team. They have so much wiggle room too. Like they already have a really good base in place, and you can get another designated player and three U22 players. Like go spend the money. This is clearly a team that's willing to spend the money. I want to see what they can bring in. I'm excited. They're ambitious, and it's a glaring hole that I think they recognize and they're looking to build upon. So that's my number one to watch. As much as I would like to say Atlanta, I think Columbus has the most wiggle room to like really build up their team.
You said basin place. It rhymes. For me,
I'm a poet.
and you didn't even know it. Ain't that crazy?
I
My
hate it.
my sorry. For me, I think Columbus is a clear one, right? A designated player and three U22s. They can go out and really be aggressive here. And what I say is pulling Atlanta, right? Lose a bunch of players, still bounce back right to the top. And they've got this guy, Wilfred Nancy, who can fit anybody into any system at any given time, which I think is really fun. FC Cincinnati, again, with their designated players set, they can really not only, their designated players are set, but they've also got a really strong group of TAM players, right? They've got a really, really, I mean, if you look at that list, gosh, I mean, half the list is TAM players, right? They are deep in the core of the team is deep, right? Miazga, Robinson, Yedlin, Wobodo, Oriano, Lucas Engel, Papabuca, Barreal, who's on loan, but like a lot of these players who are just TAM players. So if you go in and you add even two of the three U22 slots that you have left, you've got one at center back. Go ahead and add a second striker at U22 level and a wide player at U22 level. These guys are going to not only learn from the
The
players in front of
championship
them,
team.
yeah, not only are they going to learn from the players in front of them, but they're also going to contribute significant minutes. You don't drop, I mean, unless you're Philly, you don't drop a U22 slot to sit them in the MLS Next Pro for 3 years. Cough, cough, Owethu Makanya. Crazy. Still don't believe that. But I also do want to highlight that there are two. I mean, we talk Eastern Conference because it's kind of one of the easier ones for us being on the East Coast. But you've got San Jose and Seattle both who have very strong designated players, a good, strong base of TAM players, and three U22 spots left, right? And if you're looking at these teams and you're thinking, okay, where am I going to add, right? Jordan Morris, Albert Rusnak, both getting towards the end. I'm going to need somebody to replace them. Jesus Ferreira could turn into a designated player at some point. You might want to go and look at adding a U22 center back, right? And that's where I think, and that, I don't remember if we had this conversation or somebody else and I had this conversation, but I think the designated players are your attacking force, your 10, your wide players, your striker. I think your U22s are really, really well used in central midfield, center back, or outside back. I think that's a really good place to take maybe what I would call a flyer on those sorts of players who can learn from the guys in front of them, contribute when they ask for, and then give you a solid base at a low roster cap hit for significant amount of years. So I would love to see a team like San Jose, for example, right, go in and drop $2 million on a U22 center back to fill in as a rotation player and start getting the lay of the land in Bruce world, which is very easy to do because he's Bruce. But Seattle, right? You've got Yamar, Kim Keehee at age 35, Jackson Reagan, right? Yamar's 32, 33. Get somebody who can play next to Jackson Reagan for the next 7 years, right? Go find that player who will give you the rock and allow you to do whatever you want in the beginning. Those are teams I'd be watching for, not only because they have the wiggle room to do it, but they also have the roster layout that makes it really interesting for where they add their players.
I think for me, I don't just like I well, first of all, I think teams are doing a lot of what you're saying. It felt like when we were doing the transfer list a lot this year, a lot of the U22 signings were like defensive mids. So
Mm-hmm.
exactly like what you were talking about. Attacking guys were probably already in the designated player spots, use the U22s, bring in some defensive help. I think that makes sense. I agree with you on that. I think Seattle should maybe add like one or two, but keep a little bit of flexibility in the U22 because they have such a good academy. It's a great opportunity to like keep someone like Obed Vargas here and don't let him walk and go somewhere else for somebody else that has a U22 spot. Cause like he's only 19 and he's burst onto the scene really well. He's got a lot of potential, a lot of hype. He's starting to get more and more consistent minutes. He's gonna get the pay he deserves at some point. Keep that U22 spot open for him. Why not? Like, I don't think they should use all three and kind of like trap themselves in that regard. Like, they have the academy to develop players. And when they develop and start to shine and make more of an impact in the team, that's a great opportunity to keep them around and make sure they don't go somewhere else and get paid somewhere else. So like San Jose might be a little bit different because I don't think they're as known for their academy. Not that they haven't produced some good academy kids because they obviously have, but I feel like especially with the Bruce system, I would like to see them get like a little bit more depth on the team. Like there's a lot of players there, but I feel like the starting 11 is strong. And then if certain positions go down, I think the quality is going to drop like a decent amount. So I would definitely want to see them like you said, bring in U22s for the center back spot. Doesn't have to be an everyday starter, but they can kind of like get acclimated a little bit. There's not the pressure of being brought in and having to like contribute immediately at a high level. So good opportunity to kind of get settled in, start to like work on your potential, get used to the system. I'd like to see them do that and then use up all the spots. Like I don't necessarily see a situation where a bunch of youngsters are going to burst onto the scene in San Jose and they need to do something similar to like what I was talking about for Seattle.
Yeah, well, that was my not so deep dive was, who do you have as a breakout player this year? And I'm sitting there and I literally wrote down, I'm like, yeah, I don't think Bruce is chomping at the bit to give 17-year-old Cruz Medina the keys to his very, very rigid 4-2-3-1 system and say, go have fun, Cruz. I don't think that's happening. So I don't see that being a thing. But man, I think that's a really good point about, guys like Obed Vargas, right? And you see Philly was kind of already doing that with Quinn Sullivan. And I think it's a really, really good shout, right? If these players are playing at the potential and it's like, okay, we can either let him go to League MX, that's the only league that seems to be buying our players at this point, or we can hold on to him, pay him what he's worth, and not, lower our salary flexibility. No brainer, right? And I think that's really, really a great shout. And it's something that I'd be really interested to see other teams do, right? Because you got those guys, we talked about that only have maybe one or two. Atlanta United's got two U22 spots, right? And you've got guys like Luke Brennan, like Noah Cobb, a Johnny Fortune who's been playing really well. And this guy who I just watched today who looked really good, Matthew Edwards, he's playing as a right back, looks very, very much like a Brooks Lennon regen in terms of his play style. Very, very attacking, likes to get forward, whip in crosses, right? If he ends up developing to the point of, let's say, again, and this is maybe it's audacious, I don't know, but if he ends up developing to a point like Caleb Wiley, right? If nobody wants to go and buy him on, or they're not meeting your expectations, instead of losing him on a free, sign him to a U22 deal, right? You can pull that there. So I say that hoping that he is U22 and not like 23 years old.
No, I 100% agree. And maybe
He's
maybe that's what they are
22.
doing because I feel
Damn.
like
But you know what I mean. That's
um
that's the idea.
yeah, it feels like maybe the teams are doing that because a lot of teams have U22 spots open. Like there's really not many that all the U22 spots have been used already. I mean,
I feel
you
like,
kind of you touched on it earlier. You mentioned teams that already have all their stuff like done, but there's plenty of teams that have spots open in that regard.
yeah, and I think what it is really people are at this moment looking for impact, right? They're looking for who can I sign right now who's going to make a big difference. And U22 players usually are not those players, right? So you see that more what I would imagine in the spring window, summer window, right? You're going to get those guys in and say, okay, we're going to give you the half year to develop, and then you'll be ready to play. Andres Gomez comes into mind there. Marschuk again now because I'm watching Seattle here on my left screen, but Seattle and RSL I should say. So those sorts of players who came in halfway through the year as a U22 really didn't do much, and you're like, I don't know. Then they blow up for, massive amount of goals and eight-figure transfer moves and all that good stuff. That's stuff that you might look to do. So definitely interested to see what Columbus does, what Cincinnati does. I'm not interested to see what Montreal does because let's be frank here, Montreal is not doing
They're not
anything.
going to do anything.
Would I be interested in what
Yeah.
DC are going to do? No, because it doesn't matter what DC are going to do. They're going to finish 10th anyway. Like, it's just the way the world works. Like, we know how this is going to happen, but it's a really, really exciting time because we still have about a month, maybe a month and a half left in this transfer window before seeing the close and kind of where teams are going to have to stay for the next 3 to 6 months. So, stuff to keep in mind as we move forward.